Good morning, everybody. It's Friday morning. Beautiful day out here. Juju's lying in the sun, finally warming up. Morning, cup of coffee, a little peanut butter toast. Life is good. Did you guys ever have something on your hobby nook or something that just keeps staring at you to get done? Maybe in your stack of unpainted miniatures, unpainted toys. That's how this Typhoon was. It's been sitting there, staring at me, eating away at my soul. So I thought maybe I'll slap this together. A little bit about myself. I started in this business building models for a game called Mustangs and Messerschmitts. It was a game way before Age of Sigmar, way before fantasy, way before just about everything. Started playing at Ohio State. Had a group of about 15, 16 of us. No internet at the time, so we'd drive down to the Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, take pictures of the airplanes, do all the research. The game was written by Rocky Russo. He passed away a few years ago. Really nice guy. And basically you take one 72nd scale aircraft, put them on three-dimensional stands, and dogfight. And there are rules for World War I all the way through Korea. We played this game every week for about 7 years straight. 5 o'clock till 11. Then we went down to the coffee shop, had donut debriefing, talked about the game, went home, painted some more. Hopefully I'll show you some pictures of that. Good times. So I have a lot of unfinished, unbuilt airplane kits. This is a relatively new one. Relatively new, maybe 4 or 5 years. I don't know how it ended up outside its box, but I want to slap this together, see what we can do. This is the new version of 72nd scale kits by HobbyBoss. A lot of the stuff is pre-made, already assembled. Look at that. So this should go together rather easily. I'll probably paint it just after D-Day. Maybe I get some identification stripes on it. I already have a few built, the old Airfix kits, which were a pain and a joy to put together. I also have the Minicraft kits. Those are beautiful. Let's try our hand at this just to get back into the feeling of building a model. Yeah, it's kind of neat. Kind of hard to see with the sun. Alright, that's step one. I'll show you more videos later as I keep going with it. Take care, guys. Have a good weekend. Quick update. I got the wings on. I got the parts inside, the cockpit and the part of the engine together. There's a little bit of a gap there in the wings. Well, that's okay. We'll try to fix that. Went together pretty solidly. It's a very heavy kit, not what I'm used to. But I'm gonna have to cut this tail wheel off and put a brass tube in so it fits on a flight stand for the game. But that's about 2 minutes of work. I've got the 3-bladed prop ready. They also have the later version 4-bladed prop, primarily used on the Tempest, which is the version right after this. But you can see I got to fill the gaps. Oops, sorry about that. I got to fill the gaps on those wings. So we're getting there, slow but sure. Okay, just got the gear doors in. A lot of these kits aren't made for the gears to be retracted, so you got to do some clever modeling. Lucky enough, these fit pretty well. There are some kits out there that make molded closed gear doors, but this one I just had to cut a little bit on the edges, and you can see right in here, and it fit fine. Just kind of trimmed it up a little bit. I remember the days of the Hasegawa kits. We had to lay sandpaper on the table and just sand the wheels flat, make it wafer thin to put on. Oh, another thing I'm using is this plastic weld glue. It's really good stuff. What that does, it just kind of melts everything together. So with some simple sanding, I'll be able to go over this and smooth it all out. But you want the gears to be shut. So more assembly coming. Take care, guys. I didn't feel like digging around for my liquid green stuff or my squadron putty. So I just used my favorite ingredient of all time, gap filling super glue and the kicker. So I ran a little bit down the wing root, made it real fine, and sprayed it. That'll set up, and I can do a light sanding to get rid of that gap that shouldn't be there. You want to be real careful and fold your sandpaper and get it wet, and just sand using the edge of the sandpaper to eliminate the extra glue that you got not in the gap. That way you won't erase any of the detail. I may still lose some, but we'll hide that with decal and weathering. Next, I'm going to have to find my drill bit and drill out the back end and insert the tube, and then secure that up with super glue, and then I'll do some final sanding. I don't know if I'll get this primed and painted today. I got to make sure I got the right colors. What I really like is using polyscale paints for World War II aircraft. Alright, talk to you soon. Okay, time's running short, so I'm going to have to finish up for today. The hole is drilled for the tube. I started off with these two drill bits, and then found my trusty round file right here, and drilled it out to the proper size. Now here's my piece of tube, and all this will be clear when you actually see the game and see how this is mounted on a movement stand. So now what I'm going to do is secure this in here with super glue, and get back to you with that complete, and we'll talk about what to do next. Okay, the tube is now set, and you can see how I just use a little bit of the super glue and kicker, and I'll do some creative sanding to form the back of the tail surface once again. So that's all for the initial stages. Now just some final sanding. If this was a complete kit, I have to sand the fuselage, I'd have to sand up here, but this is kind of nice, this one-piece kit. So I'll sand the wing roots, 600 grit sandpaper. Back here I'll probably use 100 to get it going, then go to 300, 600, make it nice and smooth. And I'll probably use steel wool on the landing gear, make that nice and smooth. And then we'll be ready for priming, and hopefully I'll have the paint. We can start painting. But now it's time to go to work. Take care. Okay, we're back. Another beautiful day here in Cleveland. So I have all the sanding done, and if you look, here is the tail piece I was talking about, the tube you put in. You'll find out what that's about in a minute. And you can see how I sanded that flush, make it nice and pretty. Also sanded the wing roots, and the sunshine. Sanded the wing roots, and just about everything else, just a nice light sand over the bottom. Landing gear are okay. I would have loved to go on in and level them all out, but we'll see what we can do. Next is going to prep the model. I'm going to wipe it down with some rubbing alcohol, and then I got my surface primer ready, and give it a nice coat, let that dry. One little piece of, or one little tidbit on this model, I was freaking out because I couldn't find the decals, and the version I wanted to do was this one right here that had the D-Day stripes on it. I thought I'd have to go through the long process of masking and painting, but I also knew I had them somewhere, so I tore apart every box of airplane stuff that I have. The very last box. Sorry about that, it looks like the video cut out. I went through every box and finally found them. I have a habit of opening up my models or my toys in the car, and things fly everywhere, but I also know I save them. So it was in the bag of all my British decals that I had taken out working on another project downstairs. So here is the prepped model ready to go. The primer came off a little bit on the tube because I touched it and tried to get it set to dry. Other than that, I think it came out beautifully. So I also found 2 bottles of paint. I'm missing a third. This is the polyscale. I really like polyscale paint. This is the underside color, which I'll get in the airbrush. It is a medium sea gray. Here's a dark green that will be used for the top surface. I do need to find an equivalent for dark sea gray, which is on the top. But right now, for tonight, I will spray the coat, let that dry, then mask off for the top coats. And there goes the big jet flying. All right, guys, take care. See you with an update in a little bit. Good morning, all. So the undercoat of medium sea gray has dried and looks pretty good. Now what I'm going to do is mask the bottom off for the next color, which will be on top. I'm going to do this in reverse order because I still haven't found a dark sea gray. I usually like to airbrush light to dark, but now what I'm going to do is just mask off and put the green on, which will be this polyscale dark green. And then after that dries, I'll mask off and hopefully have a color ready for the top camouflage color, dark sea gray. I was talking about polyscale paints earlier, and I really like polyscale paints. They're no longer available. I think testers took them over, but they're not quite the same. So what do I like about polyscale paint? Well, the first thing is the name. They're quite simply, they say what they are. You don't have to decipher dark umber number 72 for German Panzer Brown. A case in point are these I found at a distributor out in New Mexico. I'm going to be building some Royal Australian Aircraft P-40s and Spitfire-Bs. And look at this. This one right here, I don't know if you can read it, RAAF Earth Brown. RAAF Foliage Green. And this is the best one, RAAF Sky Blue. It is what it is, and they go on so smoothly. They are almost diluted. I like them a little bit better than the Vallejo Model Air, which I've been slowly transitioning over. I used to have a lot of polyscale. You could look at the local hobby store. They would all be listed in nationalities, like all the US colors, all the British colors. So they are really, really nice. Unfortunately, they have gone the way of the dodo, and you can only find certain pots at certain places. So with that in mind, I do have the British dark green, and a lot of my paints are very old because I stopped building models and started going into miniature gaming, which I guess these are miniature gaming also. The thing also I like about polyscale is the contrast in paints. Now, what I mean by contrast is, you know, some people think a gray is a gray or blue is a blue. Here's an A6M3 Hamp Hasegawa kit, which engine broke. I have to fix it. It's not just light gray, it's Japanese navy gray. There is a tint to that gray, and you want to get the contrast right. If you find the right colors, do some research, you actually have a model that looks right when you finish it. Case in point again is this P40B that I did. Boy oh boy, you want to talk about a discussion. Check out the camouflage colors the paint used for the Flying Tigers. There is a huge dissertation going online on what colors were used, and you find out that they weren't just the British dark green, British dark earth, sky gray. The DuPont company actually mixed their own colors trying to mimic those colors, and it was quite different. So after some research, about a year of research, I found out these colors almost match exactly to the paint chips they had. So why do you go to this trouble? You want that contrast to look right. You want to put the time into the model, just have it look right. I've noticed some World War II gaming that people just paint German Tigers, whatever, or German armor, whatever yellow they have. And it's great for the game, it's the spirit of the game, but if you really want to take it to the next level, do a little research, find what was used, find the colors, find out how they painted the how they painted the actual aircraft. I know, for example, all the British paint schemes were applied with rubber mats, so you had a hard edge. Some of the late war German planes had a soft edge. They were just sprayed on as fast as they could. There are some tanks or some airplanes in Russia that actually use tank green because that's what they had. If you can research it and find that detail and just put a little bit more love into it, it really pays off. Nothing wrong with painting it blue, green, purple, whatever you want and having fun with it. But if you really want to get into it, find the colors that match. When they're on the battlefield, they really look good. So what's next? Well, I'm going to mask off, like I said, use my research material, mask off the bottom. That's pretty straightforward. You want to make sure you watch the details, like how they do their rounds up by the cowling. Most of these cowlings are straight from wing root to almost the first, just below the first half of the engine cowling, or the engine radiator. It's straight line from the wing root all the way to the back. You notice there's nothing on the tail wheel, so I'll just mask that off. Slap a paint of green on, and we'll go from there. Alright guys, thanks for listening. Okay, here she is, all ready to go to the paint booth. I put the blue mask light tack tape. I like this blue tape because it's very, very low tack and it won't mar the finish. You want to be real careful when you lift up the tape though, and always go in a 90-degree direction and pull slowly. Masked off the cowling. I just used the one joining line that was part of that radiator. You want to make sure your tape is flat, the paint can't get underneath. You're not going to saturate the model, but you don't want to leak under. One nice thing about hard edge camo is you can always go back and just touch up with your paintbrush. So I'm gonna go put the green on, let that dry overnight, and talk to you soon. Bye. Okay guys, just had to show you this. It's getting to be one of my favorite parts of model building when it starts to all come together. I have the British dark green painted on. The polyscale paint goes on like a glove. Nice even coat. Drying right now, just absolutely beautiful. You can already see it coming together. It dries to that nice rich forest green color. So I'm gonna let this dry. You don't really want to mess with it until I put the tape on, excuse me, for the upper camo scheme. And then I'll paint the yellow leading edge, wingtips, and take it from there. But it's already coming together nicely. I also want to show you what I was talking about here is a preview for what's next. It's the Mark 5B Spit. This is a later model Australian where they have the white tail. Mine aren't going to have that. I also have the sword kit, which is beautiful. So this is what I'm going to be using that Australian colors for. Research what the Australian Spit 5s did. Pretty amazing. They fought against, and that's why I brought this out, this hamp. So these guys are going to be the main combatants. So show you that later, and take care. I'm going to let this dry and go mow the yard. See you guys. Phew, okay guys, my camouflage foo has been dull by this inactivity. It took me a while to get the tape on, but I finally got a nice little representation of a camouflage pattern. Either A or B, I forget what they call that nowadays. So here we go. We're getting ready to spray the dark sea gray, which I picked up, the Tamiya version, not the polyscale. And after that, we'll let that dry, put the yellow leading edge on, and do some more detailing. So here's another thing I'm thinking about when I post this. I think I'm going to put a question to everybody out there to what they would like me to build next. Meaning you can be as general as a German fighter, or you can be as specific as a 109, or even more specific, a 109E3, or more specific, 109E3 of JG26 from Battle of Britain. Anything that you guys want to see, we'll do a little vote, a little poll, and we'll build it. I got plenty of things in my model box to pick from. Even though I showed you the Spit 5B that I want to build, I'm really thinking about P40Bs or Tomahawks from 112 Squadron. I'll explain why in a little bit. That would be a lot of fun. So let me know what you guys think once this video is posted and you see the final results and a few turns of Mustangs and Messerschmitts. Maybe that will get the juices flowing. Take care guys, see you in a little bit. Well, there she is. The gray is on. Looking pretty good. Nice even coat. Let that dry. Now, as I said before, through some research in the past, I know they use rubber mats to make a hard edge. So if I make any mistakes or no easy transition, I'll go in with a brush and thin the paint down a little bit and try to clean it up. So there you go. All the primary colors are on, the main colors. I have the yellow leading edge to do. Here's a picture of the leading edge. And then we'll do some detailing and decaling and put it on the stand. See you later. Ooh, guys, I forgot that Tamiya acrylic dries quickly. Take a look. It is beautiful. I hope I'm in focus. Hard to see with the sun here. There we go. Yep, just a little bit of edge over here. Ready for the yellow. Beautiful. Okay guys, I'm getting ready to spray the yellow, and yellow is going on just there and there. So that's the over masking that I did because the overspray gets everywhere I found. So I just taped it up. Alright, yellow coming. See you later. Okay, so we're just about ready for my favorite part of modeling. You can see the clip is on here. This is what's going to attach it to the flight stand, and I also use it to have the model dry and stuff like that when I put the gloss coat and decal coat on. So my favorite part, well, everything's all touched up. All the yellow has been touched up. Any anomalies in the camo has been touched up. I haven't put the pilot in yet. I gotta find one, but I'll put him in a minute. What's next? Well, we're gonna put a gloss coat on it because it's almost time for the decals. And my favorite gloss coat of all, there you go. Future Floor Wax, now called Pledge. Put that through the airbrush. Really don't have to dilute it. Just put a nice even coat. You need a gloss coat for decals to work. And when we get to the part where I'm putting on the decals, I'll tell you why. but I see a lot of people that just slap on decals over a flat coat and you get that silvering around the edges of the decals, and we don't want that. There are a lot of concave shapes, a lot of complex shapes that decals have to go over. The gloss coat, and you can use any major gloss coat, but I just like to get Future Floor Wax. When you spray it to the airbrush, your wife thinks you're cleaning. So when that goes on and dries, it's a nice finish. We're going to put the decals on with the decal solution so they form over the complex curves and just fit right to the model to make it look like paint. So there you go. Typhoon is coming along fine, and I have some ideas for the upcoming models I want to build. Probably bring all the boxes out here, roll a die, have my wife pick one out. Something fun. So on to the gloss coat. Alright, gloss coated, smelling lemony fresh, and we're going to let that bad boy dry, and then we'll start putting the decals on. Add a pilot. After that, put another gloss coat on to seal all the decals up after they dry, and then do some weathering. I might do some weathering while the gloss coat is on around the ailerons and control surfaces, just so that gloss helps that stuff slide around. And then a flat coat, cockpit, detail it up, put it on the stand, and play a couple turns. I also realize that I do not have rocket rules for Mustangs and Messerschmitts, so I'm researching how the Typhoons use their rockets. They weren't that effective, more of a fear factor, and I had forgotten that we had come up with our own rules. So right now I find that they are usable around 1,700 yards. In this game, that's about 78 inches. So what I'm going to do is just try to go and mimic the gun table that we have, make them highly inaccurate at long range. We'll talk about that when we play the game. Needless to say, the Typhoon is getting ready to take off. See ya. Okay guys, pardon the voice, little hoarse today. Up to decaling, and I want to show you the proper way of doing decals. I already put the wing stripes on, and my fears became reality. These decals are very old, and so they're very brittle, so I have to be very careful. I can't touch them up. I want to show you the proper way to put the decals on. The first thing you want to do is get your material together, paper towel, some warm water. This is a necessity. Blue and red stuff from Microscale. Blue goes on first, then red after a while. What you're going to do is cut your decal out. Cut it as close as you can. Some people like to trim it all the way to the end. I just cut around it. Dunk it in the water. Don't let it sit there because it'll come off the backing. You'll lose all your glue. Once you get a good soak, set it on your paper towel and let it do its thing. And I'll put it one more time. While it's coming off the backing, what we're going to do is put a little bit of the blue stuff on the area that you want to put it on. Just like this. That preps the surface, and remember, you need a good gloss coat. Must have a gloss coat. Then we're going to take this decal and put it on, move it around a little bit, not using the tip, just using maybe this metal tube or the paintbrush. You can put water under it to make it more lubricated, so to speak, so it can move around, but you want to be very, very careful when you move it around. After that, I'll show you what we'll do. Okay, the tail D-Day stripes went on pretty well. They just folded right over the fuselage. It was this wing here. This decal was pretty bad. It wouldn't come off the backing, but I can touch that up with the white paint and some weathering. You look at your instructions, you make sure you know where the decal goes. The end of the stripe is right there by the fuselage connector, the tail connector. So it's sitting on there. Let that decal set for a minute, and then what we're going to do is add the red stuff. The red stuff will take the decal and form it around that glossed surface. So you really want to use that. It'll make the silvering of the decal go away and just make it look like you painted it on. Also, when you put the red stuff on, you don't want to touch anything. You want to keep your handling of the model when you put decals on to a minimum. Work on one side, the bottom, the top, left or right at a time. Let that set totally. Also, you notice I need to add the D-Day stripes on the gear doors. I'll do that once these wings set up. I usually let the decal set for a few hours, so once I get the bottom all put together, I'll put the red stuff on all the decal surfaces. If you see the decal starting to pucker up and look like they're just shrinking, that's a good thing. They will dry flat to the surface of the model. So next step will be the... Okay, back after that brief little intermission. It's the next day, and you can see how the red stuff just took the decal and sucked it into the model. I hope the video does it justice. But you can see how the fuselage, the panel lines, you can see them through the decal. That worked out great. Everything looks good. Even this bad decal isn't too bad. I can touch that up. But once again, you can see the panel lines all the way through, and that's what you want. Next step, finish the gear doors, decals on top and the sides, let that set. See you later, guys. So guys, we're just about ready to wrap it up. I applied the final weathering before I gloss coat it. Just took GW black wash and just pushed it along the control surfaces here. Put in the pilot, touched up the bottom. I'm going to add the rockets. I don't normally put ordnance on for these fighters, but the rockets are kind of cool, so we'll have those ready to go. So once the rockets go on, I'll gloss coat it to seal the decals up, and then I will dull coat it, put the final weathering with pastels, and then we'll put the canopy on and be ready to play a game. Almost there, guys. Very, very close. We're getting really close, guys. Quick update. I just dull coated after I did a second coat of gloss to seal the decals. What that does is just brings everything up to the level of the decals. And then I put on this right here for the dull coat. And you can see it is perfect. Can you see? I don't know. It's kind of the glare here from the sun. Absolutely beautiful. See how the decals just kind of sucked right into the airplane underneath some of the details. So what's next? Real simple. Canopy goes on. Use white glue to put the canopy on so it doesn't frost up. Let that dry and then paint the canopy detail. Put on pastels for the guns, weathering, and play the game. Take care. Here we are in the evening, time to finish up. Sun's gone down and it's nice and comfortable out here. The hobby patio, everything's almost done. I just got done painting the canopy framing. It wasn't as intense as I thought it would be. Now I'm going to do some simple weathering and the model's done. What we're going to do with weathering, we're going to use pastel. Of course, we're going to make it a fine powder with this. And we're going to use these sticky notes to get straight lines. And I'll show you what we're going to do. Talk to you in a minute. Okay, I'm ready for the pastel weathering. I shaved off a little bit. I have a dry brush. I use these sticky pads to go along the panel lines. And what I'm going to do is just real lightly, oops, go down this way. And just show a little bit of weathering, kind of like the wind or the slipstream going over the model. And I'm just doing it real fine. And I'll go through the different lines on the bottom, a little bit on top. And sometimes I use a burnt umber for exhaust, but I think I'll just use black for this. So once that's all done, you don't want to use too much. If you get too much, you can just rub it right off. Blow it off a little bit. You want to be careful when you're doing this not to get the pastel on your fingertips, like right there, and get that on your model. So we'll pull this off and see what we have. There you go. Nice simple weathering. Whoops, nice simple weathering. There you go. I'll do that through the whole model and we'll take a look at it. Alright guys, we did it. She's finished. All done. Pastels are on, the weathering's on. Sometimes the pastels work great if you have shell ejector ports under here that you can see, like on American planes, or just about anything really, and exhaust streaks. I could go a little bit more crazy with a lighter color by the engines to really show it off, but we'll go with this. Alright, let's put it on the stand, take a look at what she looks like for the game, and I'll show you my favorite part about building a model. Okay, I got the airplane on the stand. Here's a typical flight stand. Pay no attention to the barking. It is about a 72-inch stand. When you play, each airplane has its own stand. So I'm going to take you through a quick look at this new model I just got done on the stand. There she is. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 40 inches up. I'm counting the black. That's about 2,600 feet. She's ready to go, ready to take her maiden flight. Just took off from the airfield. Let's look at what the stats are. I have the rule book, which is hard to find. You could probably find a bootleg copy somewhere. Let's go to the sub-period, which I already marked, which is over Europe, July 44 to 45. We're doing the Hawker Typhoon. So we're going to look at it. Cruising speed is 7, which I'll explain later. Our turn rate is D18. Takes us 3 movement points to get to that D18. What that means is on this airplane it will take me 3 movement points to go from here to fully knife edged. Once I'm fully knife edged, I can take into account my tight turn radius, which is the letter D, represents an 18-inch radius, 36-inch diameter circle on the board. Level flight down here is how we move it. We're going speed 9. I'll explain it in a minute. We got 3 movement points on the first impulse. Where's my 0? That black line is 0. So we're going to take our newly made Hawker Typhoon. This is called the first 5 minutes of ooh and ah. Anytime we build a new model, it would always be like 5 minutes, and then boom, it'd be lost in battle. So we're going to take this to this and divide it into 3 steps. That's about a third. So attitude of the plane first. We're not going to do any climbing or diving. We're going to turn this between, let's see, 1/3 between 0 and D, and here comes a very large dog in the way, which we never played with in Columbus. First movement point, done. I have 3 more in the impulse. How do I know that? Well, I just do. 2/3 rolled. 2/3 between my maximum. Move another 4 inches. Last movement point of this impulse. I'm fully knife edged. Now, because I am a fuel injected engine, I can do my full turn or negative in the opposite direction. I will try to avoid this giant Prasic Canario in front of me. I know the Germans had this. Now I'm on the tight D, the tightest I can go. 1 movement point forward. Boom. And there she is. The first impulse of a turn of Mustangs and Messerschmitts. It would be at this turn. If I wanted to fire, I could. But that will be later. Right now, thanks for watching the assembly of this aircraft. She's absolutely beautiful. Let's bring her up a little bit. There we go. Typhoons in the sun. Alright guys, yeah, there's about 200 or 300 of these built in my garage. Maybe I can pull some more out and show you. What I like to do is actual turn. I want to build another one or have a Spitfire Mark 9 going for cover, and we'll go on some rocket rules, show you how it works. Get you excited once again for one of the most beautiful games ever. Alright, model done. Now let's go to the favorite part. My favoriteest part of building a model. You ready for this? Coming up. Best part about building a model. The box, all the sprues, everything's in here. It's out of my storage and into the trash. Thanks for watching, guys. Bye-bye model kit. Now I got room to build something else, to buy something else, then to build it. All right, take care, guys. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you on the next one.